I thought I would bring you another story of my, I guess, adding to the series of the racism that I experienced while I lived in Idaho. And this story is about the first time I realized that people are basically racist and they don't know it, or they still use racist terminology to refer to black people, right? So the first time it happened, it was a friend of my ex-husband. It was his best friend's wife. So I think it was in the springtime, we all decided to do a camping trip together. She just had a baby, and so we did this camping trip together. And there was probably, I think there was like, I think there was like maybe 25 in the group. Anyway, it was a big group of campers. Give me just a second. I don't want to look up that high. But anyway, so it was a huge group of campers, and we all got together. And that was in the 90s. And in the 90s, it was popular to for women to smoke cigars, and cigars became popular again. So anyway, so someone brought a Cuban cigar to, sorry, someone brought a Cuban cigar to the camp with us, and they wanted to share it. And what they were doing was the guy lit it up, took a puff, and then he passed it on. And so there's about probably 20 of us standing around a fire pit. And so anyway, we're all standing by this fire pit, and I have to admit that, maybe the influence of alcohol kind of makes people forget their surroundings, who's with them, who's not with them. A black person's with you. So anyway, so we're all sitting around, or standing around the fire pit, and the cigar's coming around, and it's getting close to me, and I'm thinking, no, I don't think so. I am not going to put my lips around something that 20 persons, or 15, or 10, or even one, person just sucked on, because that's basically what you do with cigars. You kind of suck on it. But so anyway, the cigar's coming around, and I'm thinking, okay, so how am I going to get out of this one, right? So finally, I decide I'm just going to say no thanks and pass it on. So the cigar comes to me, and I say no thanks, and I pass it on. And my ex-husband's best friend is on my right-hand side, and next to him on his right is his wife. So the cigar comes around, and I say no thanks, and I pass it to him. And he takes a big puff out of it because he likes cigars, and passes it to his wife. His wife takes it and says, I'm not gonna suck on no cigar after Tony. I'll just use a fake name, Tony. After Tony has put his big fat nigger lips on it, and he's got those big bulbous lips, and whenever he kisses me, those big fat juicy lips just inhale my whole face, and she's going on and on. And the minute she said, I am not going to put my lips around the cigar after Tony with his big nigger lips. After she said that, I think one of the things, when things startle me, or when I hear things that, I might think is kind of off key or off colored, or someone comes at me wrong, whatever, it just kind of puts me into like a shock mode where, I don't react because my brain is going, no, that didn't just happen. No, right? So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, oh my God, did she just say that? Did she really just say that? And I think what really, I guess, bothered me and hurt me the most was that she and I had had many discussions about race, and I thought she was one of the more enlightened white people that I had met in Idaho, and so I didn't expect that to come from her. So anyway, she says that what she said, and I am just in total shock, and I'm kind of feeling I'm embarrassed for her, and I'm embarrassed for myself. I'm embarrassed for her because, she thinks that way. I'm embarrassed for myself because I have to sit there in a group of what I thought were friends, 20 persons, right? I have to sit there in a group of 20 people and and process that and realize that that's the way some people think. And it was overwhelming, and after she said that, the whole group got quiet and nobody said very much, and before you know it, everyone kind of left the fire pit and we kind of just dispersed and went our own way. At this time, when she said that, my ex-husband was, I think he was off talking to somebody else, but he wasn't in the group around the fire pit. So I finally catch up with him and I'm like, oh my God, do you know what so-and-so just said? And he's like, no, what? And I told him, and he's like, no, no, she wouldn't say that. And I'm like, no, seriously, she would. She did. Not she wouldn't, but she did. And he's like, no. And so I said, ask. And I saw one of our other friends passing. And I said, ask, what's her name? She'll tell you. And so he asked this other friend, a female friend, and she said, yep, she said it. And I remember, he wouldn't believe it from me, but having an outsider tell him, he believed her. And so, I mean, I don't know if I mentioned, but my ex-husband's white. So anyway, I think, after that discussion with her, or after what she said at the fire pit, I realized that, one, that was the end of my talking race with any white person in Idaho or any white person in general, because I think when I think people just naturally relax their guard, they're not, well, it's not so much that they're not thinking about you, but I think they feel like they're just talking to any other friend. Unfortunately, she was talking to 20 friends, and one of them happened to be black. And I, like I said, I don't know. Maybe it's subconscious racism. I don't know. But after that, I just completely refused to have a discussion about race with anybody, because I just felt, because I felt, one, people don't realize that they are racist. And if we get into a discussion, they will end up saying something racist, or they'll end up using a racist stereotype or something, something dumb's gonna come out. So I figured, you know what, as long as I'm among white people, I'll try to avoid talking about racism. So anyway, that worked out fine until I think I mentioned that there's a girl that lived next door to us, and my son always played with, and she hung out with us a lot. So anyway, her mom always tried to get me to, talk about racism. And, after my past experiences, I was like, no, there's no way I'm going to have this talk with her. But finally, after knowing her about a year or two, I guess I succumbed to it, because she started talking about racism and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And then she says, and you colored people. And I'm like, oh, darn it, we were so close. And she calls me colored. Colored was used back when, after slavery, when, which is colored is now considered a racist term. And I don't think that she realized it, but, I was like, there is no way that, anyway, I guess if you're not black, those are not issues that concern you, so you don't keep up on the terminology, right? So anyway, yeah, after that, the next time, actually, I think I was in a English 102 class, and my professor, it was the end of the semester, and he was, I guess he was just kind of talking to us, and I had written this essay about a car or something like that. But anyway, so it was end of the term, and he was talking to us, kind of like a general discussion, and seeing how hard we worked and blah, blah, blah. And I was only black female, and there was another black male in the class. But, and you know how it is. When we're around white people, we don't sit together, because we might be conspiring to take over the world. So anyway, was sitting to the far left, and I was on the far right. And so the professor's giving his little speech, and somehow he was talking about black people, and he says, and colored people didn't even have rights. And I was like, oh my God. I'm like, no. You know, if you're trying to have a informed discussion about equality, using the term colored people is not the right term to use. So, anyway, so I thought that was pretty funny because it seems like I definitely avoided talking about racism whenever I could in Idaho, and for good reason. And anyway, that's my first story for today. Thanks.